Hey, Neil, great to have you back, man.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Mark. Always a great conversation with you.
Absolutely. And I got to say this again. I love your background. Usually, I'm not a big fan of these backgrounds. I like the home background, often, but this one's great because you got a new podcast going on and it looks like you're blasting behind you and the ideas are zooming out of your head above you. So, very cool.
Well, thank you. It's a book, and the whole idea is that everyone has a story to share, to show what they've done, inspire other people, and a lot of innovation, a lot of social good, and we want to make sure that people get a chance to hear their stories.
Well, you're definitely the guy to do that. And not to put you on the spot, I look forward to participating.
We'll be happy to have you on changing the story, Mark. We'll get you on soon.
I know. So I want to talk about one of my favorite things, influencers. And I found influencers, they come in all sizes, small, big, different languages, different cultures, different colors, different everything. Some for like a minuscule moment of time and some for over a long period. Um, Share with us a little bit of one, two, three people that have influenced you in your life.
Well, I'll be happy to. I mean, I'll start off with a big name. Uh, Actually, Richard Branson was actually a big influencer in my life.
Hmm.
I mean, I think everyone hopefully is familiar with the Virgin Group and all that,
Sure.
but um, he definitely seemed a guy that was willing to take risks. Sometimes it seemed was like a bit crazy, but I actually got a chance to read his biography, and it really kind of opened my eyes about why he is the way that he is. And like one of the things he always talks about is he's actually dyslexic.
Right.
And when he was a kid, they didn't really test for dyslexia. People just thought he was slow, right? He was be the remedial classes. He never got any help. They thought that was a real lost chance. He's like, there's probably a lot of kids with some sort of learning disability that don't get help. But rather than say, it happened or it's unfair, he decided to say, could I turn my learning disability into an advantage? Right. And I think he did that. And I think he did it in a way that kind of taught him to think a little bit differently than everybody else, trying, a different eye to see things and see, can I lock something that no one else has seen, find those like hidden dots. And I think he's done that very successfully so. And I really took away from Branson that you have to be able to do that. You can't just sit there and say, "Ah, man, it was a hard deal. I got dealt a bad set of cards or whatever." It's like sometimes you can take lemons and turn it into lemonade. You got to figure out how to do that. And even if you have a learning disability like dyslexia, that could actually be a positive for you. And so that was
Brilliant.
one huge influence on my life about
Love it.
seeing the world through that mindset, that perspective, and be willing to take risks to make things happen.
Awesome. Love it.
So, second is actually a guy actually named Don, who was my supervisor when I was in college. So I had one of those jobs where you push like the overheads and the TVs to the classrooms, all that kind of stuff. And I just remember sitting, because I was working the long night shift one time, so it's only he and I, and during the dinner break, and sitting there, and he just turns to me, he's like, "Neil, have you thought about the future?" I'm like 19 years old. I'm like, I guess, I gonna get a job after I graduate. He's like, no, and he started telling me about, ironically, saving for retirement,
Well,
time, the time value of money, and how it's really important not to essentially procrastinate, but actually learn a few things and actually have some goals. You need short-term goals, but you also need long-term goals. And that conversation was a bit of an eye opener for me. And I remember one thing he said is like, it's right now you're 19. It's going to be really tough to save $500 a year for retirement, right? I get that. But if you can do it and you can do that consistently, that's going to be a lot easier than trying to save 20,000 a year when you're 40.
yeah.
Right. And there's just something that struck me about that. And she pointed out, because I worked for the university, that I could take these free like extension classes. And so I was actually encouraged by that to then take this program on personal financial planning. So I learned about retirement investing, taxes, insurance, all these things that most 19-year-olds don't worry about. But it was extremely helpful for financial literacy, but it triggered something inside me that I think really spurred my desire to be a lifelong learner. That
Hmm.
there's so many things out there, and it's something I've never really stepped away from. And like when I want to learn something new, I get like a voracious appetite. I want to like read about it, watch a bunch of YouTube videos to learn about it. Like I taught myself astrophysics and astrobiology that way,
Oh,
you know?
I
And
probably wouldn't have done that, but just that's brilliant. So that's like a one moment type of influence there in a way.
yeah, and it's like, sometimes small things actually have tremendous impact. And
Yeah.
for me, I owe a lot to Don, and I've told him that because I definitely would not be the person I am today without that, blip in time, I'll call it, right? Right? That trigger moment, if you will.
Sure. Yeah, sure. That's great. Anybody else? One last one?
One last one. I don't remember the person's name, but remember in junior high school, we were at one of those assemblies, right? And they were talking about things, and there were a couple of people very passionate about like environmental issues and stuff. But one person made this point about, it's just about give back. Whether you want to give back small or you want to give back big, you want to give back money or give back time, it's totally up to you. But like one small thing can make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of had grown up with this, you should contribute to society, community service. It was just something that struck me about a chord about that. Even if it's something small, you can help out, right? And I kind of took that to heart. We'll call it micro solution or whatever, and saying like, are there small things here and there that I'm willing to do where I could actually give back in that fashion? And I've learned that over time. That really kind of shaped my mindset about always looking at things, not just in terms of I have to do this homework assignment, or I have to do this work, or I have to try and make money for a client, but is there an opportunity to also do social good? And I just, probably not until, I was probably in college and I realized not everyone thought the same way, right? We kind of think a little more siloed. And it kind of struck me as interesting that everyone's like, you're kind of different, because you're always thinking about other people. And it was that moment I realized that kind of spurred me to start doing that consciously. And that just developed a mindset. And that's why when I'm trying to connect dots for people, I'm also looking to see, can we be good for people? Right. That's one of the reasons why I got hooked into the UN and helped them start the whole AI for Good initiative.
No accident that you met those people, in my mind. No accident.
No coincidences, Mark. Yeah, but look, I believe everyone plays a role, big or small, in impacting. Like even you, Mark, you've been a good influencer on me as well.
You say that to all the guys.
No. Look, you're very passionate about good and helping people, and you've got a really good take on talent and things. Like we were talking, sidebar conversation about the need for roles in companies like chief diversity officer, chief inclusion officer, and these are things we normally just don't think about, but we all actually can recognize the value from it.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Let's face it, different perspectives is the whole ballgame. So otherwise, we're all thinking the same thing and not going to go anywhere. So, well, you've been an influence on me too. I will tell you that. And we didn't even have to pay each other for that mutual admiration. But thanks for sharing that. I think those are important to hear because so often the people, they're not looking for credit, but it's good to hear that these things happen. And that, like you said, we should be thinking of the influence we can have on people to do great things. So appreciate you sharing that. And I'm sure we'll be talking real soon.
Hey, looking forward to it, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, man.